You know, there's something absolutely magnificent that happens when you begin to shift your thinking from what's probable to what's possible. Most people walk through life with their eyes fixed on the ground, looking at what's reasonable, what's logical, what makes sense according to the world's standards. But I'm here to tell you that when you start believing God for the impossible, when you start stepping out in faith, everything changes. Everything. Now, I want you to understand something fundamental about your existence. You didn't come into this world by accident. You weren't randomly thrown here without purpose or meaning. There's a divine intelligence that flows through everything, and that same intelligence flows through you. The same power that creates galaxies, that turns seeds into mighty oak trees, that orchestrates the sunset and the sunrise, that very same power lives within you right now. Not somewhere out there in the distant heavens, but right here, right now, in this very moment. But here's what happens to most of us. We get conditioned. We get programmed by society, by our families, by our experiences, by our fears. We start believing in limitations. We start thinking small. We start accepting what others tell us is possible, instead of listening to that quiet voice within that whispers about the extraordinary life we're meant to live. And slowly, gradually, we begin to forget who we really are. We forget that we're spiritual beings having a human experience, not the other way around. When I talk about believing God for the impossible, I'm not talking about some external deity sitting on a cloud somewhere judging your every move. I'm talking about connecting with that infinite intelligence, that divine source, that universal mind that some call God, that others call the universe, that others call infinite potential. The name doesn't matter. What matters is the connection. What matters is your willingness to align yourself with something greater than your limited ego-based thinking. You see, your ego wants to keep you safe. It wants to keep you in the familiar. It constantly whispers doubt and fear. It says, be realistic, don't get your hopes up. Remember what happened last time. You're not good enough. You're not smart enough. You're not worthy enough. But that's not truth. That's just your conditioning speaking. That's just old programming running on autopilot. The truth is that you are worthy right now, not when you lose weight, not when you make more money, not when you achieve that goal. Right now, exactly as you are worthy of miracles. You are worthy of abundance, you are worthy of love, you are worthy of living an extraordinary life. And when you begin to truly believe this, when you begin to operate from this place of knowing, the impossible starts becoming possible. Faith isn't about being religious. Faith is about trust. It's about trusting that there's a benevolent universe that's always working in your favor, even when circumstances look difficult. It's about trusting that when you align yourself with your highest good, with love, with service, with authenticity, everything you need will flow to you. Not necessarily in the way you think it should, not necessarily according to your timeline, but always in perfect divine timing. I've watched people transform their lives completely when they made this shift. I've seen people who were told they would never walk again get up and walk. I've seen people who were broke and desperate create abundance beyond their wildest dreams. I've seen relationships that seemed beyond repair heal completely. I've seen people who were sick and dying recover fully. And it all started with a decision, a simple decision to believe God for the impossible, to step out in faith even when logic said it couldn't happen. Now, stepping out in faith doesn't mean being irresponsible. It doesn't mean quitting your job without a plan because you're trusting the universe. That's not faith. That's foolishness. Real faith is taking inspired action. It's listening to that inner guidance and then having the courage to act on it, even when it doesn't make logical sense, even when others think you're crazy, even when you're scared. Let me tell you something about fear. Fear is going to be there. It's part of the human experience. But you don't have to let fear run your life. You can acknowledge the fear and do it anyway. You can feel the fear and still take that step forward. Because here's the beautiful truth. On the other side of fear is everything you've ever wanted. On the other side of fear is freedom. On the other side of fear is the impossible made possible. When you believe God for the impossible, you stop trying to figure everything out with your limited mind. You stop needing to know the how before you take action. You simply set the intention, align yourself with it emotionally and spiritually, and then you watch as the universe conspires to help you. Doors open that you didn't even know existed. People show up at exactly the right time. Resources appear out of nowhere. Synchronicities become commonplace. But this requires surrender. And surrender is probably one of the most misunderstood concepts in spiritual growth. Surrender doesn't mean giving up. Surrender doesn't mean being passive. Surrender means letting go of your need to control everything. It means trusting that there's a higher intelligence orchestrating things, and that when you get your ego out of the way, when you stop forcing and pushing and manipulating, life flows with such ease and grace that it almost seems magical. You know what your biggest obstacle is? It's not your circumstances. It's not your past. It's not other people. Your biggest obstacle is your own thinking. It's your belief systems. It's the stories you tell yourself about who you are and what's possible for you. And the beautiful thing is that you can change your thinking. You can rewrite your stories. You can choose different beliefs. Every single thing you believe about yourself and about life you learned, which means you can unlearn it and learn something new. You weren't born believing you were limited. You weren't born afraid. You weren't born doubting yourself. A little baby doesn't wake up and think, I can't learn to walk. That's impossible for me. No, the baby just keeps trying, keeps falling, keeps getting back up, until one day walking becomes natural. That's faith in action right there. That's believing in the impossible and taking action until it becomes possible. And you can apply this same principle to any area of your life. To your health, to your relationships, to your finances, to your career, to your spiritual growth. Whatever seems impossible right now can become possible when you shift your belief and take aligned action. But you have to be willing to change. You have to be willing to let go of the old you to become the new you. And this is where most people get stuck. They want the new results, but they want to keep their old thinking. They want the miracle, but they're not willing to shift their consciousness. It doesn't work that way. You can't create a new life with old thoughts. You can't manifest the impossible while clinging to the limiting beliefs that created your current reality. When you start believing God for the impossible, you start seeing yourself differently. You stop identifying with your limitations and start identifying with your infinite potential. You stop saying, I can't, and start asking, how can I? You stop focusing on what's wrong and start focusing on what's possible. You stop being a victim of circumstances and start being a creator of your reality. And yes, I know this sounds too good to be true. I know your logical mind is probably saying, this is just positive thinking nonsense. But I'm not talking about positive thinking. I'm talking about aligning yourself with the creative power of the universe. I'm talking about understanding the spiritual laws that govern this world and working with them instead of against them. There's a law of attraction that says like attracts like. Whatever you focus on expands. Whatever you give your attention to grows. If you focus on lack, you create more lack. If you focus on problems, you create more problems. But if you focus on abundance, on possibilities, on solutions, on miracles, you create more of that. It's not magic. It's how consciousness works. Your beliefs create your thoughts. Your thoughts create your feelings. Your feelings drive your actions. Your actions create your results. And your results reinforce your beliefs. It's a continuous loop. Most people are stuck in a negative loop, creating the same results over and over again, wondering why life is so hard. But when you interrupt this loop, when you consciously choose new beliefs, you start creating different results. Now, I want to address something important. When I say believe God for the impossible, I'm not saying that you should expect life to be easy or that you'll never face challenges. Faith doesn't exempt you from difficulties. What it does is change how you perceive and respond to those difficulties. When you have faith, you see challenges as opportunities for growth. You see obstacles as stepping stones. You see setbacks as setups for comebacks. You understand that everything is working for your highest good, even when it doesn't feel like it. You trust that there's a bigger plan unfolding, that there's wisdom in the journey, that sometimes the detours are exactly where you needed to go. This perspective changes everything. It allows you to move through life with peace instead of anxiety, with trust instead of fear, with gratitude instead of resentment. Gratitude is one of the most powerful tools you have for believing God for the impossible. When you're grateful for what you have right now, you're telling the universe, yes, more of this, please. You're operating from a place of abundance instead of lack. You're acknowledging the blessings that are already present in your life. And this acknowledgement opens the door for more blessings to flow in. But so many people postpone their gratitude. They say, I'll be grateful when I get the promotion, when I meet the right person, when I have more money, when I lose weight. But that's backwards. Gratitude comes first. Gratitude is what creates the space for the miracles to happen. When you're grateful now, you're already living in the energy of the wish fulfilled. You're already vibrating at the frequency of your desires. And speaking of desires, let's talk about what you really want. Not what your parents want for you, not what society says you should want, not what your ego thinks will make you happy. What does your soul want? What makes your heart sing? What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? What dream have you been too afraid to admit even to yourself? That dream, that longing, that desire that won't go away no matter how much you try to ignore it, that's not random. That's your soul calling you toward your purpose. That's the universe nudging you toward your highest expression. And when you honor that calling, when you have the courage to pursue that dream, the entire universe supports you. Resources you couldn't have planned for show up. Opportunities you couldn't have orchestrated appear. People who can help you cross your path. But you have to take the first step. You have to step out in faith before you see the evidence. You have to act as if it's already done. You have to believe before you receive. This is the spiritual law of creation. The physical world is always a reflection of the spiritual world. What you hold in consciousness eventually manifests in form. But there's a gestation period. There's a time lag between the planting of the seed and the harvest. Most people give up during this time lag. They plant the seed, and when they don't see results immediately, they dig it up to check if it's growing. They doubt. They worry. They change their mind. They focus on the lack instead of the fulfillment. And in doing so, they sabotage the very manifestation they're trying to create. Faith means staying true to your vision even when the evidence isn't there yet. It means watering the seed even when you can't see anything growing. It means believing in the harvest before you see a single sprout. It means trusting the process even when the process is uncomfortable. This is what separates those who create extraordinary lives from those who settle for ordinary ones. The ability to hold the vision, to maintain the faith, to keep believing even when circumstances suggest otherwise. And let me tell you, circumstances will suggest otherwise. There will be times when it seems like everything is falling apart. There will be times when you question whether you made the right decision. There will be times when the old doubts creep back in. This is normal. This is part of the journey. The key is not to let these moments define you. The key is to remember who you really are and what you're really capable of. You are not your circumstances. You are not your past. You are not your mistakes. You are not your limitations. You are an infinite spiritual being with unlimited potential. You are a piece of the divine, expressing itself in human form. You are powerful beyond measure. You are loved beyond comprehension. You are enough, exactly as you are right now. When you truly understand this, when you truly embody this truth, believing God for the impossible becomes natural. It's not something you have to force or fake. It's simply the recognition of what's always been true. You've always been connected to infinite intelligence. You've always had access to unlimited resources. You've always been worthy of miracles. You just forgot for a while. But now you're remembering. Now you're waking up. Now you're ready to step out in faith and claim the life you were born to live. And that life is so much bigger, so much more beautiful, so much more fulfilling than what you've been settling for. That life is waiting for you. It's not in the future. It's available right now. The moment you decide to believe, the moment you decide to trust, the moment you decide to act, that life begins. So what's one impossible thing you can start believing God for right now? What's one area of your life where you've been accepting limitations that aren't real? What's one step you can take today, right now, that would move you toward your highest vision? Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for the perfect time. Don't wait until you feel ready. You'll never feel completely ready for the impossible. That's why it's called the impossible. But when you step out in faith, when you take that action despite the fear, something shifts in the universe. You send out a signal that says, I'm serious, I'm committed, I'm ready. And the universe responds to that signal. It has to. It's a law. What you put out, you get back. The energy you send forth returns to you multiplied. Now I want to talk about persistence because this is crucial. Believing God for the impossible isn't a one-time event. It's a daily practice. It's a constant choice. Every single day you have to choose faith over fear. You have to choose trust over doubt. You have to choose possibility over limitation. Some days this will be easy. Some days it will be the hardest thing you've ever done. Do it anyway. Persistence is what turns the impossible into the inevitable. Every great achievement in human history started with someone believing in something that everyone else thought was impossible. Flying was impossible until the Wright brothers made it possible. Going to the moon was impossible until we did it. Running a 4-minute mile was impossible until Roger Bannister broke that barrier. Then suddenly, lots of people could do it because the collective belief about what was possible had changed. Your personal impossibilities work the same way. When you break through one, when you prove to yourself that you can do what you thought you couldn't, it changes everything. It expands your sense of what's possible. It builds your faith muscle. It gives you evidence that you can rely on your inner guidance. And this evidence makes it easier to believe God for the next impossible thing. This is how you build an extraordinary life. One impossible thing at a time, one act of faith at a time, one courageous step at a time. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to see the whole staircase. You just have to take the next step, and then the next one, and then the next one. And before you know it, you're standing in a place you never thought you could reach. But here's what you must understand. The journey is the destination. The becoming is the reward. The growth that happens as you pursue the impossible is more valuable than the achievement itself. Because who you become in the process of believing, of stepping out in faith, of persisting despite obstacles, that person is capable of sustaining the miracle when it manifests. Too many people focus only on the outcome. They want the money, the relationship, the success, the healing, but they don't want to become the person who can handle those blessings. And so even when they receive what they've been asking for, they can't maintain it. They haven't developed the consciousness to match the manifestation. This is why the inner work is so important. This is why changing your beliefs and your identity is essential. This is why you can't skip the process. The process is preparing you for the blessing. The waiting period is developing your character. The challenges are strengthening your faith. Everything is working together for your highest good, always. And I know it's hard to see this sometimes. I know that when you're in the middle of difficulty, when you're facing what seems like an impossible situation, it's hard to trust. It's hard to believe. It's hard to have faith. But this is precisely when faith matters most. Anyone can believe when everything is going well. The real test of faith is believing when circumstances suggest you shouldn't. This is when you have to go deeper. This is when you have to connect with that source within you that knows the truth beyond appearances. This is when you have to remember that what you see with your physical eyes is not the whole picture. There's a spiritual reality that's more real than the physical reality. And in that spiritual reality, everything is already perfect. Everything is already whole. Everything is already abundant. Your job is to align yourself with that spiritual reality and let it manifest in the physical. You do this through your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs, your actions. You do this by consistently choosing faith over fear, love over hate, abundance over lack, possibility over limitation. And yes, you'll mess up sometimes. Yes, you'll have moments of doubt. Yes, you'll want to give up. This is all part of being human. But the question is, will you get back up? Will you choose faith again? Will you keep believing even when it's hard? Because this is what determines whether you'll experience the impossible made possible. It's not about being perfect. It's about being persistent. It's about having the courage to keep going when every logical reason says you should quit. And let me tell you something beautiful. Every time you choose faith, it gets easier. Every time you step out despite fear, your confidence grows. Every time you trust and things work out, your belief strengthens. You're building a track record with yourself and with the universe. You're proving that you can be trusted with bigger blessings. You're demonstrating that you're ready for greater opportunities. This is the path of the spiritual warrior. This is the journey of someone who refuses to settle for a mediocre life. This is what it means to truly live instead of merely exist. And it's available to you right now, not someday, not when conditions are perfect, not when you've fixed all your flaws. Right now, exactly as you are, exactly where you are, you can begin believing God for the impossible. What if you started treating your life like the miracle it is? What if you started seeing every challenge as an opportunity to strengthen your faith? What if you started viewing every delay as divine timing? What if you started believing that everything is happening for you, not to you? What if you started trusting that you're always being guided, always being supported, always being loved? This shift in perspective changes everything. It transforms struggle into growth. It turns pain into wisdom. It converts obstacles into stepping stones. It makes the impossible possible. And it's all available through faith, through that willingness to trust in something greater than your limited human understanding. Now, I want you to think about your life right now. What's the impossible thing you need to believe for? What's the situation that seems hopeless? What's the dream that seems too big? What's the healing that seems unlikely? What's the breakthrough that seems impossible? That's exactly what you should be focusing your faith on. Not because faith is about getting what you want, but because faith is about aligning yourself with your highest good. And your highest good is always more magnificent than what your limited mind can conceive. When you believe God for the impossible, you're not trying to manipulate the universe into giving you what your ego wants. You're opening yourself up to receive what your soul needs for its growth and evolution. And sometimes what manifests looks different than what you expected. Sometimes the answer to your prayer comes in a form you didn't anticipate. Sometimes the miracle happens, but not in the way you thought it would. This is why attachment to specific outcomes can actually block your blessings. When you're too rigid about how things should unfold, you miss the opportunities that are right in front of you. True faith includes flexibility. It includes being open to receiving in unexpected ways. It includes trusting that the universe might have something even better planned for you than what you've been asking for. It includes surrendering your limited vision for the unlimited possibilities that exist beyond your current awareness. This is advanced faith. This is mature spirituality. This is what it means to truly trust. You set your intention, you align your energy, you take inspired action, and then you let go of how and when it will manifest. You release your death grip on control and you allow life to surprise and delight you in ways you couldn't have orchestrated on your own. And yes, this requires vulnerability. It requires admitting that you don't have all the answers. It requires acknowledging that there's a power greater than your ego at work in your life. For some people, this is terrifying. For others, it's liberating. The difference is whether you see it as losing control or gaining trust. When you understand that control is an illusion anyway, when you realize that trying to control everything is exhausting and ultimately futile, surrendering to a higher power becomes a relief. It means you don't have to figure everything out. It means you don't have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. It means you can rest in the knowledge that you're being taken care of, that you're part of a larger divine plan, that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. This doesn't mean being passive. This doesn't mean not taking action. This doesn't mean just waiting around for miracles to fall from the sky. Remember, faith without action is dead. You have to do your part. You have to show up. You have to put in the effort. But you do so from a place of trust rather than anxiety, from a place of joy rather than desperation, from a place of knowing rather than hoping. There's a huge difference between hoping something will happen and knowing it will happen. Hope is uncertain, hope is wishful thinking, hope is fingers crossed and luck sought. But knowing is different. Knowing is certainty. Knowing is faith made manifest. Knowing is that unshakable trust that what you're believing for is already done in the spiritual realm, and it's just a matter of time before it appears in the physical realm. How do you move from hoping to knowing? Through practice, through experience, through repeatedly choosing faith and seeing it validated. Through building that relationship with your inner wisdom, with that divine intelligence, with God or the universe or whatever you choose to call that higher power. The more you listen to that guidance and act on it, the more you trust it. The more you trust it, the easier faith becomes. And as faith becomes easier, as trust becomes your default setting, you start living in a constant state of expectancy. You start looking for miracles instead of problems. You start anticipating blessings instead of disasters. You start seeing opportunities instead of obstacles. Your whole life becomes an adventure of faith, a continuous unfolding of the impossible made possible. This is what's available to you. This is your birthright. This is what you were created for. Not to live small, not to play it safe, not to settle for less than you're capable of. You were created to express the fullness of who you are, to share your unique gifts with the world, to make a difference, to leave a legacy, to live a life that inspires others to believe in their own impossibilities. But you can't inspire others to believe if you don't believe yourself. You can't lead others to faith if you're living in fear. You can't help others step out if you're staying stuck. This is why your personal transformation matters so much. This is why your willingness to believe God for the impossible in your own life is so important. You're not just doing it for yourself. You're doing it for everyone whose life you'll touch, everyone who will be inspired by your courage, everyone who will be blessed by your breakthrough. When you believe God for the impossible and step out in faith, you're not just changing your life, you're changing the world. You're raising the consciousness of the planet. You're demonstrating what's possible for humanity. You're being a light in the darkness. You're proving that miracles are real, that faith works, that the impossible is just a temporary state waiting to be transformed by belief and action. So I'm asking you, right here, right now, what are you going to choose? Are you going to keep living small, or are you ready to step into your greatness? Are you going to keep focusing on what's wrong, or are you ready to create what's possible? Are you going to keep doubting yourself, or are you ready to trust that divine intelligence within you? Are you going to keep playing it safe, or are you ready to step out in faith? The choice is yours. It's always been yours. No one can make this choice for you. No one can believe for you. No one can take action for you. This is your life. This is your journey. This is your opportunity to create something extraordinary. And it starts with a decision, a simple decision to believe God for the impossible, to step out in faith, to trust that you're supported, to know that you're worthy, to act as if it's already done. Make that decision now. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when you feel ready. Now. Choose faith over fear. Choose trust over doubt. Choose possibility over limitation. Choose to believe that the impossible is possible for you. And then take that first step, even if it's a tiny step, even if it's terrifying, even if you have no idea how it's going to work out. Take the step. Because on the other side of that step is everything you've been longing for. On the other side of that step is the life you were meant to live. On the other side of that step is freedom, joy, abundance, love, peace, fulfillment. On the other side of that step is the impossible made possible, and you deserve to experience it. You deserve to live it. You deserve to be it. So believe, step out, have faith. Trust the process. Trust yourself. Trust that higher power that's always guiding you. And watch as miracles unfold in your life, as doors open that were previously closed, as resources appear that weren't there before, as synchronicities become your new normal, as the impossible becomes your reality. This is what happens when you believe God for the impossible. This is what happens when you step out in faith. This is the life that's waiting for you. Go claim it. You're ready. You've always been ready. The universe is conspiring in your favor right now. All you have to do is say yes. Say yes to faith. Say yes to possibility. Say yes to your dreams. Say yes to the impossible. Say yes to the miracle that you are. And know this with absolute certainty. You are loved, you are supported, you are guided, you are protected, and you are capable of far more than you've ever imagined. The impossible is simply the possible that hasn't been actualized yet. And you have everything you need within you right now to actualize it. So go forth with faith, with courage, with trust, with love, and create the impossible. It's your time. It's always been your time. Believe it, live it, be it.